Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to present self-development theory of David Tiedmann, also known as Tiedmann's career development and decision making. So the basic philosophy of this theory is that career development and decision making is the assumption that one is responsible for one's own behavior because one has the capacity for choice and lives in a world which is not deterministic. So the assumption of Tiedman simply implying that individuals are capable of choosing purposeful actions or behavior that will help us or an individual in his decision making or overall in his life. David Tiedman is a cognitive developmental theorist, views continuity of development as internal or psychological, while this continuity has a sociological or environmental basis caused by the nature of structure of the society. So, the continuity or growth lies within the individual or lies within us. While this continuity has something to do with social or environmental factors that affects the individual in terms of his or her decision making in life. So life discontinuities are imposed as we find ourselves in relatively new physical and social environment. Discontinuities are these are or what we call problems or the turning points in our lives and are naturally part of in an individual or naturally part of our life. We face different kinds of discontinuities in life as we grow and partake in our different life phases. So for example, the child who must leave their house to enter preschool. Of course, a child will be introduced to a new setting wherein he will meet or will make new friends and peers and will also meet the teachers and they will learn new things in the school. Another example is the worker who will enter his or her new job, and a high school graduate student who will soon enter college or enter a university. Enter the university. So there are three of the most enduring contributions of his theory. First is the emphasis on the role of ego identity development in career development. When we say identity development, it is also being aware or having self-awareness, being able to decide for yourself or the capacity to choose on your goals that will help you in your career development. So number two, the role of purposeful action in dealing discontinuities. It talks about how you create and plan your purposeful behavior or actions that helps you deal with the discontinuities and to be able to come up with purposeful actions or behavior. And before this, an individual must be aware that there is discontinuities so that so that an individual um, may plan or create this purposeful behavior. Number three, the significance of differentiation and integration in the evolution of career decision making. So Tiedman introduced seven sequential stages, and it assumes that we pass through these seven stages in the process of making decisions. These are the seven sequential stages. First is the exploration, characterized by generalized and vague concern with little or no progress toward choice. This is where you start to think of pieces of thoughts or choices. I should say thoughts. And crystallization represents progress toward but not attainment of choice. Conflicts are recognized. And then number three is the choice, represents a particular goal. Next is clarification, planning the details of a choice. It is when you plan the details and the next steps to be taken to follow through on the commitment. And then next is the induction, wherein an individual implement the decision. Reformation, assertive, and like to be involved in others and impart their values and knowledge. So the person is being assertive rather than passive. They want to be involved in the group and like to assert their values and beliefs to other people. And next is the integration, when other people reacts to his force of change, which is asserting the values or beliefs. It causes the individual to modify his intentions. So while the Tiedmann model assumes, or these 7 sequential stages assumes, that all individuals pass through these stages in the process of making decision, there are individual differences in perceiving and reacting to discontinuities or problem to be solved. And these are regarded as characteristics response modes, and we call them decision-making styles. So, Tiedmann introduced 8 styles and later on collapse it into 3 categories. The original 8 composes of planning, intuitive, impulsive, agonizing, delaying, paralytic, fatalistic, and compliant. Planning viewed as the most effective style, and intuitive sometimes effective, and the rest are ineffective. So he collapsed this into 3 categories now called planning, intuitive, and dependent. So planning is characterized by the ability to recognize the consequences of earlier decisions for later decisions. This style represents the ideal of the self-actualizing decision maker. It is quoted, the architect of his own future as he lives it. Characterized by logical, seeking accurate information, self-appraisal is realistic. And then the intuitive style. The intuitive decision maker accepts responsibility for his decision making. They use fantasy, attention to present feelings, and emotional self-awareness as the basis for decision making. And then the last one, dependent. Dependent style is characterized by a denial of personal responsibility for decision making and a projection of that responsibility outside of self. It is heavily influenced by others' expectations of him, passive and compliant, high need for social approval. So on these 3 decision making style, which is most likely you, or what style are you mostly use? So I have here an example of assessment of career decision making by Haren, and research related to the theory itself remain limited. So example statements, I have here an example of statement in the assessment of decision making. When I make decision, it is important to me what my friends think about it. So do you agree or disagree? You may answer this assessment of career decision making answered by agree or disagree. So if you agree, then put agree. So when I make decision, it is important to me that what my friends think about it. So do you agree or agree? It is most likely the dependent style, right? So the next one is, when I make decision, I just trust my inner feelings and decisions. Agree or disagree? This style is most likely the dependent style. So implication to counseling and education. The role of counselors, educators, and others in the helping professions is to help people accept this responsibility or owning their lives and to develop their capacity for choice, thus achieving greater control over their own behavior and over the environment. So we as an educator or a counselor, um, we will help the individual or the students to be able to own owning of their responsibilities and be able to help them develop their capacity for choice. So that's all for self-developmental theory of David Tiedmann, also known as career development and decision making. Thank you everyone for listening.